Fats or carbs? Which makes you fat? You may be surprised at the answer. Hi, this is Dr. Shintani for your health. The big question, fats or carbs? Which makes you fat? The answer may really surprise you. A lot of people say carbs make you fat. At the same time, you hear people say that fat makes you fat. So which is it? Let's look at some facts. Of course, calories make a difference. But right away, it seems that fat looks like a more important factor in obesity because fats have more calories than carbs. Fats are 9 calories per gram. Carbs are just 4 calories per gram. But then there's the argument that carbs raise insulin levels, and insulin causes lipogenesis, or fat formation. Since fat doesn't raise insulin levels, then it must be the carbs. This, however, doesn't make sense when you look at East Asian countries such as Thailand and the Philippines, where they eat lots of carbs but remain slim. You might say that this is because these are relatively poor countries and many don't get enough to eat. But then look at Japan, a wealthy nation that eats lots of carbs and have no shortage of food, but have a very low rate of obesity and, by the way, a low rate of diabetes. So then you might say that they're slim because genetically East Asians are a slim race. But what about native Hawaiians? They genetically can tend to be very overweight. Yet in the 1800s, while consuming a high-carb diet, over 75% carbohydrate, they were slim and athletic. Then, when Western culture and food arrived, with more fat and less carb, their obesity rate increased. So let's look at some animal studies. In 1985, a study was done correlating the fat in the diet of mice with their body fat. In this study, several groups of genetically similar mice were fed increasing levels of fat in their diet and allowed to eat as much as they wanted. The results were very clear. On the lowest fat feed, none of the mice became obese. On higher and higher fat diets, obesity rates progressively increased. Because protein was held constant, the higher and higher fat diets that produced more and more obesity were lower and lower carb diets. In other words, mice on a high-carb, low-fat diet remained slim. Mice on a low-carb, high-fat diet tended to become obese. In 2018, a similar study published in Cell Metabolism came to a similar conclusion. In that study, researchers also demonstrated that low-carb, high-fat diets were associated with obesity, and high-carb diets were associated with leanness. They also showed that high protein intake or low protein intake did not make a difference. So logic, observation, and animal studies suggest that it is fat and not carbs that really contribute more to obesity. A couple of cautions about this conclusion. Mouse studies are not always 100% analogous to human studies. Also, some of the mice in the study did not become obese despite a high-fat diet, which indicates that there are genetic differences. And if mouse studies are indicators of human response, there may be many humans who remain slim despite a high-fat diet. However, note that the studies cited did not account for the form of the food. In other words, whether the food was whole or processed. Perhaps more important than genetics or percent fat in the diet is the bulk factor of the food. For example, overconsumption of processed carbs or any calories may cause weight gain simply because of the calorie load. A good example of this is a 3.5-ounce bran muffin is about 238 calories, even though it is mostly carbohydrate. Conversely, consumption of fat in a whole food, such as avocados and olives, may not contribute to obesity like processed oils do. For example, a 3.5-ounce portion of avocado is just 149 calories, even though it's 80% fat. In this way, the bulk value of the food may trump carbs or fats, because if the food is very bulky, you will consume fewer calories, whether it is fat or carbs, and still remain satisfied. This is described in my Peace Diet book in a chapter on obesity and indicates foods that contribute to weight loss in a table at the back of the book. The book is available at www.peacediet.org. For more tips that might save your life, Subscribe to this channel at AskDrShintani.com and click on the bell for notifications about future videos. This is Dr. Shintani for your health.